Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Paladins qualifiers here for HRX. My name's Ryan Day. I'm joined by Pretty Hair here on the desk. We're just casting now. We're going to be breaking down game number 2, and that is going to be a very important one because it's against two teams that a lot of players. I sat down with Phoenix. I sat down with Diggy Dog. I sat down with Rock Monkey and Vex. Consider that both of these teams, whether you're in North America or Europe, are actually going to make it out of this bracket.
Really?
NA boys have Sanguine. Obviously, the European boys have Virtus Pro. What do you think about that? Let's get this started off because they both are good teams.
I mean, I got VP going top 4 in this event, so obviously I've got them beating a team like Sanguine here, and I think in their own heads, VP are going to have them beating Sanguine in this event.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't say that they're going to be disrespectful in any way to Sanguine, but they are not going to be giving this team, I don't think, much respect. I think they carry themselves as a much higher caliber team.
And I think you can say that points to results. They've looked much better in the split. They're 2-6, but that record doesn't really tell the story. That was often a 2-6 that came against what are literally the top 2, maybe 3 best teams in the world. And so, although handling mouse sports, they proved that they were taking maps off of even Fnatic for a lot of this this split. And now there's Purdo.
I mean, it's Purdo, man. It's
who can just do things,
weird
right?
to vote against him. It just
That's
is.
right.
Quick aside, how do you feel about the VP recolor?
I actually like it a lot.
I actually kind of do. Now that I've seen it in
now
person.
it's in person.
I'm down.
Elven Path's just
There's
glory
so much
as
orange
a physical
and black, too.
specimen. Yeah, right. I know. I mean, it's a good tone. I don't know if I like the camouflage look on top of it, but he's got to support the home country, and he's got to, obviously. Well, that was Germany, so I guess I don't even now. I can't help fill in your logic.
Are there any?
Maybe he's just cold.
Maybe.
Anyway,
I've always been hot in those rooms personally.
I know it's gamer smell in there. That's for sure.
Yes.
Virtus Pro, let's talk a little bit, too, about the fact that they're facing up against a North American team coming from the PGS. This team has been to probably more LANs than some of our professional teams, assuredly Mouse Sports and Splice.
Yeah.
Because they've been at almost every LAN this year and have done well with people like Kresnik, El Zulu, Jalen Sanity, and there's Ninu.
Yes, man. Good to get a face attached to that name for me.
That's
one of the newest members here, playing very, very well. I've talked a lot personally about this guy being kind of my rookie of the season for Season 2, especially given the way that Virtus Pro plays. It's a lot invested in an Elven Path. It's a lot of attention given everywhere and anywhere but to Ninu, and the kid has still been successful.
He has looked very good as well. We've taken a long look at Virtus Pro. It's hard to not take a big look at them and expect them to win. I think most of the viewers would be surprised by the fact that Rock Monkey and Vex had Sanguine passing not only Virtus Pro in this matchup, but qualifying ahead of them. And maybe it's because of the road, because these two teams have, when you go to losers bracket, it's a lot harder to qualify, and Sanguine, they think you're going to be better in this matchup. But you got 3 members of the old D69, one of the most dominant teams in all of Paladins Esports history, in Purdo, Sheepa, and Elven Path. That's just hard to beat.
I touched on this a little bit last set, but especially with these teams that don't play much together, when you're looking at records, and specifically Virtus Pro, 2-6, yes, but it's 2-6 in the European PPL, one of the most winningest regions of all time. So you have to kind of give respect there. But I have to say, I am still a little bit surprised that those opinions from the North American guys about Sanguine wanting to actually take this.
They were sweet on Sanguine. There's no other way to say it. They were sweet on Sanguine, and a lot of it came down to Kresnik. Kresnik was a guy who they believed actually was one of the smarter players in North America. He said that he's a great drafter, he's a great player, and that is Kresnik right there on your screen. Yeah. He's a guy that knows what to do when it comes down to the wire. So that's what they're voting their confidence on. Also, just the fact that they're LAN experienced.
And you're right. They have played in a lot of stuff. Basically, every single time we bring a North American PGS team to anything, they are in the conversation. Looking pretty good there with the up knot there. Purdo and Sheepa. They're just so
Sheepa growing his hair out.
So experienced, man. It's just hard for me to vote against him. He's not only
selfie.
Up, checking it, looking good. Yep.
He's got a little bun in the back.
Angles, yeah.
Oh, Nick, did you teach him that?
I did not teach him that.
Woo!
I think that's an F-dot special.
Oh, okay.
The top knot.
Watch a little smite on the side. One of the great things about, I think, this cast of players from North America is you see them a lot in your games, and whether you're playing ranked, whether you're playing casual, they grind. They work hard. Sanguine are a team to not be underestimated, and maybe that's also part of the reason that they feel that Virtus Pro will assuredly underestimate a PGS team, a Global Series amateur team from North America. Could that be
I can
coming
almost
into play
assure
from
you
it?
that they are underestimating
Yes,
this team.
right?
Sometimes that works for them because they're not worried. They have basically zero nerves, I think. Maybe not true for Ninu because this is going to be his first event with the squad. But they have virtually no nerves, I think, because they are just so confident that they are going to win this first round matchup. It's going to be nothing for them. But later on, that puts a cap on them when they're not giving respect to a lot of these teams. When they do continue to underestimate or just feel too confident in themselves, that's where it can come back and bite them. If Sanguine end up showing up, I think it's going to go one of two ways. There's going to be not a lot of middle ground.
Big question for me, and I want to pose this to you. We know the offensive firepower is there on the side of Virtus Pro with Perdo. Although question marks as far as top tier, as far as all of the Esports and Paladins combined, when you look at Navi, Mutu, Creatives, Perdo may be falling a little bit short of that for now, but Sanguine have had to switch Bagel Wow onto a DPS, and he's normally a support player. He's done well in this last PGS split, but do you think they maybe are lacking some firepower?
I think absolutely when you stack them up against Perdo, how can you say otherwise? I mean, the kid is decorated basically to the teeth. The only thing that they would have going mentally for them is that they're almost in that new school with I think they're aware of who Perdo is, but they haven't really been around. They haven't been coming to events when Perdo has been winning.
Well, this is Virtus Pro's map pick, so that's an interesting thing to talk about. I mean, they have the opportunity now to set the table, the record for how this set is going to go, and we've seen a defensive approach. One of the coolest things that Phoenix was mentioning about, as well as Diggy Dog, is that they're the most defensive team they've seen, meaning that even if they're about to lose this point, they'll all be, by the time you capture, set up at their base, ready to go ahead and deal with you and make sure you can't get through. Stalwart is a great word for it, and that goes into the drafting as well. Do you expect a lot of Victor here, Leon, kind of long, very strong defensive champions as well?
Yes, I do. I think Virtus Pro will stay pretty consistent. Known to be a little bit stubborn, but I think sort of old school in the things that they like and just thinking that, okay, we can make it work, and probably more hasty to say if something didn't work, it was probably something I did versus this champion just can't work in this scenario.
How can Sanguine, overcome this gap? Because we know Kresnik has his drafting capabilities. We know Bagawao, although a good player, but when you're talking about internationally competing, yet to prove himself on this stage at LAN, but also yet to prove himself against top dogs like Perdo, Mutu Creatives, Bugsy, Fsheko. How can Sanguine overcome this gap?
Use the stubbornness, use the predictability, figure out what they're going to do, and then say to yourself, they're probably just going to keep doing that, especially if it works out of the gate, which it's likely to. I think they need to be the ones that are adjusting on the fly. They have a lot of things stacked up against them, in my opinion, right now, including but not limited to that first map pick. I think the first map pick is really, really crucial in these best of threes, because even if you lose one along the way, you're likely to get that map 3 pick as well.
Jalen Sanity, a very strong support player, wasn't able to make it to the last LAN that we had. And that was actually a big storyline as well, because he was a very good player, wasn't able to make it, I believe, to Vegas. But Canadian, from what I remember.
Yes.
I'll be corrected. Yeah, I think it is Canadian. So now able to be with the team. This is the first time, despite them making it to a lot of LANs, I think that they've all been together as this full unit.
Coming up on a year?
It's coming up on a year, man. You're talking about a team that's been together longer than this current iteration of Virtus Pro.
And Surrett's Nina, the two new guys there, the two new school talent members, I would say. I think, you have a lot of those old school veterans. They're a big question mark. I think Surrett's is going to be...
Has he proven himself?
Part of that? I think I think so. I think there's not a lot that he's doing in terms of pulling the strings. I think he's just kind of doing what he's told, and that's to be expected. When you have guys like Elvin Path, like Perdo, like Sheepa that have been winning, it's hard to kind of come in and tell them what to do. Obviously, there's going to be input given from everyone there, but like we mentioned, a lot of the focus is around, especially if it's a Torvald plus something, that's Perdo and Sheepa running around together. If it's Elvin Path on literally everything, he's getting pocketed by Surrett's, probably because that's what he's being told. And then Ninu's left a little bit out in the cold, but that's why I love him. That's why I think he's been such a Rookie of the Year candidate, because he's been successful in these moments where he hasn't been given a lot of attention, a lot of love, a lot of hugs, a lot of kisses. That's not what VP's about.
That is definitely not what they're about as well. Led by the Russian commander, Elvin Path. He kind of runs a tight and strict ship, but it ends up working out usually, especially at LAN, where him and his team have been notably some of the best performers in all of Paladins Esports history, dating all the way back to the Founders Tournament, the very first international LAN in Sweden, where they actually took home the grand prize in Young Shopping. This time, it's going to be Virtus Pro with an Androxus band, one of the more, I would say, synonymous characters with one of their champion, or I guess players, Perdo.
I mean, if VP are banning it out first on this map as well, you best believe it's going to be highly contested in this set. Hit scan pressure in both slots from VP, frontline pressure in both slots from Sanguine here. Now notable picks still open. Obviously the Inara and Makoa, can't forget about him. He will be brought through and likely for Elvin.
You certainly cannot. Their coach blinking, looking confident.
Old hoodie too.
And composed. Definitely rocking the old hoodie. The contrast of colors is nice to see. But again, maybe he's cold. I mean, Elvin Path puts on the jacket as well. Maybe they have a jacket commitment between those two. I've heard of weirder things going on. Inara and Fernando taken as a front line pairing for Sanguine. And this is important. El Zulu, he does like to be on those aggressive front lines as well. They've also taken away some threats that can sustain with the Makoa, but also offer some anti-heal and damage like Makoa.
Certainly has Drogoz up on the board as well, with plenty of hitscan Predators not on the board. I'd be surprised if we didn't see him go. Hasn't quite had the impact. Maybe it's the reintroduction of Victor. Maybe it's someone else bringing some consistent damage from distance around corners, things like that.
Yeah.
Peridot does absolutely have a Victor in the pocket. I think it's an easy enough champion to pick up and play, so when you see those double hit scan comps, if that becomes a thing, Victor and Leon is also kind of in this corner where they will sort of be the one that Corlin's going to flex onto, or that Blaster is going to have to pick up and play.
And I think this is really going to be a different set draft-wise, because we will see the Drogoz, we will see more confidence from Virtus Pro. It does take a little bit of a confidence boost or a trust within your team and your coordination to pick a Blaster with so much heavy hit scan at land in your first set, first game when a lot are on the line. It's a best of 3 and you could head down with a loss being, you know, basically 50% of what you can only take before you head out.
It sure feels like they're setting up for it, man. With these bans, they get their Drogoz, but Willow is obviously still on the board as well. Both of these picks going to be strong in their own rights. The Victor is locked in. That is a lot of and Nightshade, it sort of provides that like budget around the corner damage if you can find the right angles for it. But at the moment, Sanguine feel like they're in a good spot.
This is a very decent draft from Sanguine. That's what the North American pros praise Kresnik and this team for. But keeping up with one of the best in Europe, Virtus Pro, with 3 historic players on it, and the 2 newcomers of Ninu and Surretts, that is the question that everyone is trying to figure out now. Cassie taken, and rounding out the squad is the Ashe to contend with the double front line already selected by Sanguine. So now Sanguine left for a healer pick. Ying already off the board. Maldamba, yep, seems like the choice.
Those will probably be the only 2 supports we see this event. Maybe somebody dabbling into Genos, but Furia falling off quite hard. A little bit of Grover sprinkled in here as well.
Yeah.
I'm always expecting that more from the North Americans than I am from the Europeans.
Absolutely. And there's no reason, unless you see some G2, or well, G2's not here, but unless you see some G2 style, just funky bans for no reason, taking the support pool, saying, how deep can you go? And that is something we may see. But best of 3s, people aren't messing around. They're keeping it pretty consistent. Who do you have here in the draft?
I think I actually like Sanguine's draft better here. I'm going to be honest with you. I think they're going to be able to put out more consistent damage.
I think I'm with you.
They have good anti-heal as well. We will have to see. I think VP have the better players, but it's got to be settled in game.
It's game number 1. Set 2, Virtus Pro versus Sanguine Esports. Let's send it over to your casters. And I guess us, it's Gormizer and Vox.
Thank you so much, Evan, as we come here. Stone Heat is where we get to start things off, and Virtus Pro looking pretty good. First pick Makoa is always a great way to start your draft.
There's no better way to start your draft, in my personal opinion. Looking through some of the talents coming up on screen, it is Fortress Breaker Ashe coming through, Combustible Drogoz notably, as well as the Life Exchange Ying, and relatively standard with Shrapnel being the new flavor saver power for Victor, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at the itemization as well, Gore, coming through. It is double cauterize for the side of course, Sanguine. I'm looking at the wrong team there. It is double Wrecker for Virtus Pro, as I am getting confused, but that kind of makes sense, as we know that Follow the Scent for Drogoz is a very strong area anti-heal card, and looking at things coming through right now, starting us off, high ground control, trying to be taken by Virtus Pro, but look at that, Sanguine Esports forcing their Inara straight into the enemy backline.
Sheepa doing his best, but Elvin Path low, dead, first blood going to Kresnik, and that's going to be the pressure you need if you're Sanguine right there. You get rid of probably the biggest threat on the side of Virtus Pro, maybe besides the Drogoz, and there's not much Ying can do here. Pressured out and pushed back. What exactly are Virtus Pro like hoping to accomplish right now?
I mean, that was Virtus Pro going for a head-to-head, right? You have the Makoa, so you get the early dredge anchor. The problem is, you got a CC immune Inara and a Fernando with a big old shield forcing your way straight into your backline, and that kind of really stops the hook from doing too much there. So, grenades coming through as well. A lot of spam coming through thanks to that Grenadier reset cooldown card in the side of Sanguine Esports Victor's pocket. Out goes the Fire Spit. Very long travel time, though, so whilst it gets a lot of damage off and does get some displacement, leaves Ninu vulnerable for a little while, and I'm wondering as well, one thing that we do have to take into account count, Gore, is that this is Ninu's first LAN. That, as far as we're aware, this is the first time, despite Ninu being an OG closed beta player, they're actually coming into effect, and that might be hitting him a little bit hard here.
Well, 99-3, overtime still ticking down. There's going to be Ninu Perdo falling down. Shiba doing his best. There's only so much one man can do when faced against all of Sanguine. Elvenpath going to be dashing in for the overtime reset.
I mean, at that point, you're just feeding Sanguine Esports ult charge and credits for the kill and stuff like that. I don't know what Elvin's trying to achieve with a dive in with Makoa like that. You've got no backup. You know you've got no backup. You've got to choose your battles a little bit more carefully there. And as Sanguine Esports do set up to start this payload push rolling, they've got all 5 ultimates charged up in just a second as Victor. The only one without that is at 97%. You know, one frag grenade will take that right on over, Gore.
Being able to set that up, do you think that's going to give them a better chance of offense? It's always difficult to break this archway in Stone Keep, but do you think they hold on to it and hoping for the next round, or they pull those out like it's nothing?
You know, I think that at this point you can. The one big reason being why is that Virtus.pro didn't have Illusory Rift. They didn't have that early game sustained just gas pedal ultimate available to them in this first point capture. That could have turned the tide so much. If you can just use your ultimates to burn that, even if you don't get the conversion, Sanguine Esports are going to be in a much better position for round number 2, Gore. If they do get the conversion as well, then hey, they're 2-0 and already that's good. But as Perdo finds Kresnik after a great dredge anchor and some disruption from Elvenpath, you know, Virtus.pro are now positioned to get a very easy defense coming on through here thanks to the constant barrage of damage from these combustible fire spits.
And this is a map in the past Virtus.pro have showcased a lot of skill, and of course having everything that they have now, 3/5 of the members of D69 back together, a lot of LAN experience of old, whereas Sanguine has been able to get a lot of fresh LAN experience. It doesn't seem to be doing a lot. Zulu going down right there, Envy taken out, and it seems like Virtus.pro have been able to push forward. There's still a minute left, but they definitely have a comfortable defensive line right now.
Questionable Fayfly right here. Not really sure what it's achieving. Elvenpath might go down. Big ceiling pop. Bagel Wow does find one. Soret's about to go down as well. This is huge. Oh my god, Ninu should be taken out as well. Finds Kresnik though. Bagel Wow trusting their team to finish off the Drogos, and in doing so leaves them alive for a second in order to get the trade. El Zulu still does get a double kill on their end. Damage dealt charts being led by Virtus.pro at this point, but Sanguine Esports, they've opened up the ability to now get the payload into this choke point position, Gore. But by then, Virtus.pro, they've got the respawns coming through, and they're happy to just hold again.
Respawn proximity, they're going to get the high ground right out the bat, and now you're seeing the archway. This is going to be the hardest point for Sanguine to push forward. Also, 5 ults available. Virtus.pro, with the healing they have, the ability to back to the base is going to feel comfortable. Zulu goes down here. That might put the final nail in the coffin. Sanguine have to find something else.
Oh, that was so critical right there, Gore, because if they didn't find Zulu, if that Inara stayed alive, Sanguine Esports had just taken high ground control away from Virtus.pro, and that could have gone bad with Kresnik kind of spearheading that charge. But as Kresnik gets barraged around, Sheepa takes out Bagel Wow. Backdoor is coming through. Look at that. Sanguine Esports send the Fernando around, but quick to respond. Virtus.pro, they're not so far away that they can't. El Zulu, though, the respawn has come back on through. If an Immortal gets popped here, they could try and hold and wait for the respawn of their support, but it's just not worth it to invest all that ultimate charge for no real avail. And a double kill from Perdo to clean up right at the end there, Gore. That will be Virtus.pro making the first defense.
Like the call. Hold on to your ults as much as you can. Virtus.pro kind of known for holding onto their ults as much as possible.
Somewhat reputable for that.
At this point,
ooh,
they've only popped the Illusory Rift, which, as we mentioned earlier in the first set, and I think bears worth mentioning, it charges faster than any other ult, really, except maybe for Scout. But once you get Morale Boost 3 online, you kind of heal 3 people, and then you're right back to being able to pop a full ult.
Especially the life exchanging as well. Not just relying on your illusions, folks, but you are also targeting enemies with your Shatter. Transforms that into a healing ability. Really important factor that Virtus.pro might be able to take advantage of with their Shell Shield and with also Sheepa's, Fortress Breaker Siege Shield. Bit of a mouthful right there as well. Look at that. 4 instances of blast shields do come on through to reduce the damage from Bagel Wow. You can't heal with life exchanges Shatter through enemy shields. Therefore, if Elvenpath traps somebody in a bubble, that could actually be really bad news for them if they can get that bubble over the backside of maybe a Bagel Wow. Pull comes through on a Victor though. Perdo is ready and waiting on the Cassie, and oh goodness, that is a Fayflight getting shut down immediately by Soretz.
And what was a phenomenal start at the beginning of the game, it is completely wiped out there for Sanguine as Virtus.pro step the pedal to the metal. They are prepared, they are ready, and now they're going for the defensive line. Ninu, specifically on this Drogo's top damage, although he might not be finding all the kills, has been in control.
And that's certainly the case. Look at this. It's 66% and rising right now. I was going to say that Sanguine Esports didn't really use any ultimates apart from the Fayfly going into that. Virtus.pro just kept the Ancient Rage in the tank, and that might have given Sanguine Esports the opportunity to come back in, but the zone from Virtus.pro has been excellent so far. Seismic Crash does rain on through. Headshots from Envy collide onto Makoa, but it's not enough to find the kill. The Frag Grenade as well isn't enough to do just anybody down into the ground, and I mean, maybe they might find, oh, Envy gets a double kill. This is huge, Gore.
Now the pressure coming out. Triple kill here for Envy, looking maybe for the fourth. If he can find a good grenade right here, might kill off Ninu, but they're forcing him back. 96% picked up for Virtus Pro.
Virtus Pro had that in the bag, Gore. I don't know what happened there. I don't know what happened. Virtus Pro just needed to zone for a second, and then this Victor gets around. They don't take out Makoa, and you think it's all over. Elzulu with the seismic crash sets up something incredible, but look at this as well. Scramble 5 in Envy's loadout. 25% damage reduction whilst using Hustle. Just lets them avoid some of the incoming damage from this Drogoz, from this Cassie, stay alive, and my goodness, you can't underestimate those headshots, but it is 99% to 93 for Sanguine, Gore.
Elven Path comes in, goes down. Sheepa comes in, goes down. That's 2 kills picked up as Virtus Pro are going to just fall and drop like flies as long as the grenades keep flying, as long as Envy keeps finding these shots. He has nothing to worry about. Perdue looking for the return fire, but he's just lost in a sea of sharks.
Gort, you just hustle around and you've got 25% damage reduction on you. During that is offensive to me right now. That is just ridiculous. We knew that was a strong card, but we always talk about Grenadier with Victor, but Envy is just making like the Bee Gees and staying alive here. And so, as it is 2 minutes and 10 seconds on the clock, Sanguine Esports, 2 captures in a row right here. Virtus Pro, the PPL team, sure, they're 4th seed out of Europe, but they're still a PPL team. You expect them to be able to perform a little bit better than this, especially against a composition where there's only really the dead zone as the innate anti-heal online there, and that's what we really talk about, making some early game differences, Gore.
I mean, the pressure coming down, a lot of it does also come down to the fact that Inara is almost unkillable. We've mentioned how important it is to kill off Elzulu, but Elzulu was 7-3 at the beginning of the round. He has done nothing but go forward with that as Fayflight comes through. 10-4 now for the Inara. Not normally your carry, but still being able to provide so much for this team.
And just remarkably few deaths on all of Sanguine Esports, the lowest there being Jalen's Sanity. On the support right now, Jalen on the Maldama, 21 assists, 11 streak, and the ultimate is ready to go. Virtus Pro trying to hold on this choke point. Elven Path takes some damage, Shell Shield goes down, Gore.
Being able to find a little bit of pressure. This archway is difficult, but last time at a minute, Virtus Pro were able to push everyone on Sanguine back, get control back in their court, and push to the middle of the map for the line of scrimmage. Now they are locked in their base, trying to figure out where they want to go. Kills aren't rolling the way they were at the beginning of the round, and if Envy,
that was clutch.
Zulu at this point can get a little bit more aggressive, they're going to open up a whole world of pain here for Virtus Pro.
Well, Dread Serpent does come on through right there. Virtus Pro trying to kick it up a notch as they're going to look to respond. Ying says time to take charge, and Elven Path's health, well, it wasn't disappearing down for a second, but oh, Dredge Anchor does land onto Envy. Out comes the hustle, the healing, the Gord is just too good. Gore Envy turns the tide onto Elven Path there, and that could be Sanguine looking for conversion.
Dropping down from the high ground, doing whatever they can, but they are just falling down, looking to take it to 3-1. Sheepa, Ninu trying to do whatever they can, but double kill here for Envy. Sheepa locked behind a shield, finally taken out, and that's going to be a push successful as Sanguine maintain a few of their ults. A lot of big ones going into the next round.
Let's take a look at the INAP instant replay here, Gorham. This is the moment that I was talking about. It's that hustle, keeping them alive, making sure that the damage doesn't rain on through. The double kill from Ambi onto Elfen Path and Proto, and then just easy tracing onto Sheepa as well. No contest onto this Victor, just lets them dismantle like a broken Lego set Virtus Pro on that objective, despite having such an advantageous point hold.
I thought for sure we were going to see that triple kill turned into a quadra kill as well. That
I
grenade,
thought the grenade
was
going up.
Just off.
It was a
where
little too far to the left. It had been slight to the right. It would have gone down the staircase in Cathedral rather than out to the left around that kind of connector area there. But Envy right now, 13 streak, second highest on the team. Jalen's Sanity sitting at 15 right there. And damage dealt shots actually still going the way of Virtus Pro right now. But we know that that's just not converting into the kills at the critical moments in game. And high ground control already to Sanguine Esports. Look at this. Elven going for a big flank. Is sniffed out. Took too long to do it. Tries to work their way around the back, does have Ancient Rage available, so we know that Sanguine have to be careful here, and that might just be brought out, and already it is.
Forcing that out so early on, Sanguine going to be able to get a lot of control just from that, but Ninu Perdo picking up a couple of kills left and right. Bagel Wow notably not doing well, but once Envy gets taken out, that seems to be the final nail in the coffin, at least for the first fight, first engagement, but almost mirroring what we saw during the last round. Now Virtus Pro, comeback mechanic, can they at least hold on to this long enough for another 40%?
Well, that's the critical difference right now, is there is comeback mechanic, and actually Elzulu gets taken down here in just a second by Perdo before they can get into the position which last round they were able able to use seismic crash as kind of the big thing which started off that tide turning for Sanguine. And again, Gore, you mentioned it, comeback mechanic on the side of Virtus Pro at a 2-point deficit in the game score. They capture at a rate of 4% per in-game tick rather than just 3%, and therefore have so much of an innate advantage. And Virtus Pro, they aren't wasting any of that. They're rushing straight on in. El Zulu up on the high ground. Kresnik trying to hold the pincer, but El Zulu is getting pushed back very heavily by Sheepa on this Ash for Virtus Pro. Siege Shield at the ready, looks to try and displace Bagelwar from the high grounds now.
Now, this is the first time you've ever seen Virtus Pro play. First off, watch the PPL, but also, this is a very vast change, I would say, in style of
I didn't know you had a
Just
parasol with you with some of the shade you were casting.
The way things go, I mean, Elven Path and Sheepa both have been a lot more aggressive this game than I think I've seen them throughout the entire fall split.
Well, I think they're testing the waters right now. They're trying to feel out how the American teams play, and up to the high ground, Nini drops Salvo, Dragon Punch is channeled and ready, or charged and ready, waiting to be channeled. Fire Spit will do a bit of disruption, but again, high ground control is what Sanguine are investing everything into right now. They've gone so far as to put their Inara up on the top and keep the Fernando down low, which is counter to what we normally see. They've got 4 members up there, Gore. Make that 3. Oh.
Nope. Still going to be 4, at least for a little bit, although high ground has been the point of contention so far. Maybe getting a little pressure here for Virtus Pro. Drogo's still on the left-hand side of El Zulu. Looking to get a little bit more, although not finding too much. No big kills for Ninu, and that's been a big issue for Virtus Pro. You mentioned it, top of the damage charts, but if you can't convert that to kills, it really doesn't mean anything. Bagel Wow has, I think, the worst slash line on Sanguine right now, but he's provided so much outside of that that it doesn't really matter.
It's all about the utility. It's all about the anti-heal that Dead Zone can provide, Gore, right now. And looking at the slash lines, Perdo for Virtus Pro has been really a saving grace right here. Back on the Cassie, one of the champions which they made a name for themselves on alongside Androxus way back in the day of D69 at this point, and looking to try and get this conversion going through. Sheepa to the high ground again. You know, at this point, Gore, I can say that I don't actually like this. I want Elven Path to be taking the high ground because I think there's a little bit more that you can do with a Makoa's Dredge Anchor and maybe displacing a Squishy than there is that you can just do with this constant barrage of damage from a Sheepa, but... And there we go, Elven Path goes down, just gets focused down by all these high ground damage carries.
20 seconds left, you lose one of your main front lines. Both of your main front lines now as Ninu trying to do whatever he can, looking for a kill, but he's still not going to be able to find it, looking to get away just barely is Bagel Wow with 100 health, I believe, to his name, or a few hundred at the end of it. 10 seconds left, no big chances for overtime unless Virtus Pro are going to start throwing bodies. Elven Path is back, but he is getting burned down quickly.
Got to be very careful here. Again, out goes the Dead Zone onto Elven Path. Elven Path in a lot of trouble, and this time they do actually send Sheepa into the backline, but it's a little bit too late as Bagel Wow has already taken out Elven Path. Gore, please swap off.
Being able to pressure at whatever they can. Sheepa doing whatever he can to keep them locked into base right now, doing a lot in terms of zoning, but overtime still not going to be enough. Kills coming out. Surets, Sheepa, Ninu,
good defense.
All going to get taken down in the process.
Wow, did you see that as well? Sanguine had all 5 ultimates charged at the end of that defense. It was such a long kind of just hold at the high ground there that nothing really changed for either of these teams. They're in a situation where they weren't able to make much offensive progress. Virtus Pro was kind of held at the choke point, and nobody really wanted to commit ultimates to be able to try and break their way open. We didn't see anything used defensively from Sanguine. I don't think we saw anything used by Virtus Pro either, Gore, and that's a really big one for me right there. That means that with a combat mechanic still in the hands of Virtus Pro, they will be going back into this round, probably going to be trying to do a similar thing to what they did last time, which is get a big pincer off with Makoa, get that Ancient Rage going, maybe use the Illusory Rift to reset the fight, but Sanguine Esports now, they've got things like the Dread Serpent ready, they've got the Fae Flight to just escape that landbound turtle, which is a little bit odd if you say it out loud, and they might be able to proactively respond here as the scout does come through from Cassie, and they're looking like they're going to get aggressive.
Nice sealing down the corridor to make sure that Virtus Pro can't get aggressive. Elven Path, Ancient Rage immediately in the face, taking a lot of damage in the process though. Fae Flight going to get popped, and they are just burning him down left and right, but it's going to be Ninu with a double kill picking it up. Elven Path, Perdo putting their names on the list, and again, Sanguine's initial fight does not go the way they want.
And I'm so confused about that. Sanguine burnt everything. They used the Fae Flight, the Dread Serpent, they used the Immortal as well, and I thought the Immortal, it did a good job of keeping Willow alive in the air, but maybe it was just they pulled the trigger on that a little bit too early, Gore, as Ninu comes in, drops a combustible Fire Spit, and we all know how that story ends. That one doesn't actually land, but Perdo is set up in a perfect pincer place right now, landing damage onto Envy, who's finished off by the Drake.
Being able to find a lot of shots from the side, Perdo is in the perfect position. Zulu has 200 health and none. Virtus Pro, half a comeback mechanic this time around, but still in complete control. A lot cleaner of a fight than what they've had so far.
So far then, as you said, 2-3. Make that 3-3 as Virtus Pro do tie things up. And now look at the difference in positioning from this team in blue. They're already putting pressure on the Sanguine Esports. They want this initial payload push, section, segment, portion gore to go as easily as possible. And Ninu is getting ready to try and break through El Zulu's Inara again. But I'm wondering if there's some madness going on here. Trying the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result every time without changing your strategy. I've got to see something different happen this time from Virtus Pro if they want to look for conversion. And for me, again, that's positioning and placement of Elven Path.
I'm looking at 81% for the Dragon Punch as well, so if you need to get rid of a front line, that is going to be your opening case. But Ninu seems to be going for the poke in the back line, and what you had said during the last round, the same thing that's happening right here. No one is finding the pressure they need. It's literally just a mirror.
I'm seeing really an instant replay right there, and again, it's Inara. You think you might, oh, I can knock the Inara off the high ground maybe, haha. You've been bamboozled, it's Mother's Grace, and she's not going anywhere. That CC immunity, Ashe stuck in a corner, I think she'll, Sheepa just about gets out. No battering ram, of course, because it's Fortress Breaker, and does take the spill, and as a result, Virtus Pro sent back to their base. Sanguine Esports hold. It really is deja vu here, Gore.
At this rate, I'm looking at the ults coming up. Sanguine have a lot in terms of defensive nature, but 3-3 is the awkward point, right? That's where you don't really want to use them for a defense. If you want to, you can try to use them for an aggression, but if you fail either side, either Sanguine you lose, or if you're Virtus Pro, you might go into the next round without it. And again, historically, a team that likes to hold on to these ults, a bad dash, and he doesn't make it back up.
Gets sent off the edge, doesn't pop the Faith Light as well. Bit of a misplay coming through there right then. Fernando uses Immortal to try and save themselves. Ninu, though, could be able to clean up the kill here. No, goes down, but Perdo finds Kresnik.
Being able to find the kills, Perdo, Sheepa again. Jalen Sanity going down, no healer. El Zulu left out to dry, and now he's going to get taken out. Virtus Pro pressing the gas pedal, and they're going to be able to find it. Game number 1 here, going their way for the European powerhouse.
Triple kill through there at the end from Sheepa. Finally, that Ashe coming into play with maybe that high ground control just going their way, but honestly, Gore, I've got to say it, I really wanted to see something different happen from Virtus Pro there. It felt to me like they ended up getting that push from luck. It was opened up by Bagelwow going off the edge of the map, and that came off the back of a fire spit that had been thrown up there to that high ground position so many times. I've got to say it, I'm not confident enough that that was good enough from Virtus Pro, despite getting the win, to be a reliable thing to do time and time again. So whilst they might have taken this first game, I need them to innovate more and change things up if they keep on meeting this repeated resistance.
I mean, go back and look at the very beginning of the game, right? It's going all in Sanguine's favor. It comes down to the defense. There was a lot that was playing against Virtus Pro there. Maybe some more aggression than what they're used to do, but we're going to go back to the desk and see what exactly Evan and Nick thought about that first game.
Well, thanks. The first note I had, which is totally irrelevant now, was Sheepa on Ashe was uninspiring. Decent, but need more from him. I think a triple kill at the end of the game probably is enough, Nick, to send it for Virtus Pro taking the lead in this best of 3.
I mean, one map kill feels like a little bit of luck. 2 knockback kills, that feels like consistent. That felt like Sheepa was trying to do that, and it's really kind of a crappy way for a game to end if you're Sanguine, because it's just so disheartening, especially when you got nothing for it. Bagelwow, he kind of scuffed that dash, and that's what ended up in him falling off there. A lot of things could have gone better down the stretch for Sanguine.
What's interesting here too, Nick, is that, let's start at the start of the game. VP definitely looks surprised, I think, at Sanguine. Sanguine comes out very strong early on, almost like 100-0 VPs, and maybe there's this adjustment period. But then even in point 2, Sanguine are able to retake after Virtus Pro clean sweep. Comeback mechanic, different story. We'll get there in a second. But do you think that VP is still adjusting to the fact that, okay, Sanguine, we have to worry about them a little bit?
I think so. I think that's going to be something that they just sort of do on the fly. And your Series MVP for this first game looks like it was going to be Ninu, the new blood on this squad, the guy that often doesn't get too much attention, landing good dragon punches. So consistent. I mean, you throw out 1,000 fire spits all game long. One of those knockbacks is bound to get you something, but I think Virtus Pro did a good job as a team reacting to that, albeit unforeseen conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, it was just good min-maxing of these situations from Ninu, and you can see him there. He was a big kind of story for us in the PPL. Virtus Pro definitely looked like they picked him up, and he had a performance that was suggestive of him being a player of a higher caliber than even most of us expected in that land, starting off strong. Let's talk about El Zulu, though. I mean, he came out strong as well, Nick, leading kills on the entire game after 14 minutes on Inara. They're going to need big performances from him, but that's even more than I expected.
Pretty funny. I mean, when you think about it, maybe that leads into needing more out of Sheepa. Those two kind of butting heads a lot on the high ground there. And Nara, when played aggressively, we've seen guys like Ovim do it. El Zulu gets aggressive on whatever you put him on. She can definitely sneak up on you and do some good damage and take you down.
So because defensively, you see Virtus.pro have this kind of excellence attached to their name and their play style. They go down 3-1, but it almost works, it definitely works to their advantage. They find 2 comeback mechanic points in a row, and that 3rd point, they're able to push and actually have a chance to win the game.
Yeah.
Do you think Sanguine, knowing that Virtus.pro are probably stronger at a deficit than they are even at an even landscape in Paladins, do they change?
Man, that goes back to, is this team too new school to remember that about Elvin? To remember that Elvin was really the first person to redefine how Paladins was played in terms of playing around comeback mechanic and only worrying about the point. I don't know if they remember that time, because Elvin Path isn't really worried about playing at this deficit, and I doubt Sheepa and Peridot would be too shook about that either. Do they change the way that they play around it? I think so. I think you have to go into it realizing, or just knowing, using that predictability, like they're not going to use their ultimates here. They are going to save. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. Try and nail down what Virtus.pro is looking to do.
I think it's that 3-1, right, where that push looks like, yes, we can go 3-1 up. You get excited, but you realize that if we don't have the ability to take the next point fight, it's null and void. And they did not get those point fights right from then on. Next map coming up very, very soon, and I think this is going to be a big telling situation here. Both of these teams given the vote of confidence from North American and European qualifier counterparts who are already waiting at HRX in the November 16th through 18th pool. But we'll see as the bans begin. It's Torvald yet again. The Grandpa can't get any breaks.
Don't want to let this one go through to VP. We talked a lot about how Surrettes often will pocket Elvin. If Torvald is allowed through, Sheepa's going to pick it up, but he's going to pocket Peridot. Again, Ninu often left alone on this comp, but he's done fairly well for himself. That's just the way they like to play. Don't expect to see Torvald banned in every set, but so far there have been Torvald players involved in the game. And Nara will be the first pick. You mentioned El Zulu, killing it on that pick. Obviously want to run it back.
And it is a good pick for them. And we realized that they, in the second pick position, focused on the Inara and the Fernando, and that gave them a lot of early game pressure, but it started to wane as Kresnik couldn't find as many kills towards the end of that set. Inara now opens up for another 2-3 slot for Sanguine to really augment a damage dealer and force VP into this, okay, should we grab our frontliners now type question.
In this game, you win or you die.
In game 1, we saw so much focus
ground
on those hit scan champions from Virtus.pro being banned out. The Leon and the Androxus, a lot of front lines banned this time around, leaving open those carries, I think, a little bit more room to work. We'll have to see what they're able to do with said freedom. So far, the same front lines have sort of started to be picked up here for these guys. We'll see where this one goes. Makoa does stay banned out, of course, or else he would have been likely already scooped up. Willow notably open as well, but VP have put Sanguine in an awkward spot to pick that as they have a very good counter.
And you know what isn't banned this time? It's the Androxus, and this is something Envy goes back to pretty religiously, I would say. They're going to grab it up. One of the marquee flankers, probably the best in the class, considered amongst pro players to be able to get in, get out, do the thing, which is get the kills. And now Sanguine have a threat that Virtus.pro, I'm not sure, currently are equipped to handle.
So much burst damage on this character, one of the highest in the game. And remember, to all watching this is played on the 1.7 patch, so none of the changes on the most recent update showcase are implemented into the game yet. First barrack of the tournament will be locked in, likely for Sheepa, I have to imagine.
And that is an important pick. He's going to be that secondary tank flex, so the Ashe, now the barrack. You would expect that.
What does that look from the coach?
Actually, you know what though? It might actually be Sheepa on the Fernando and Elvin Path on the barrack. We've seen Elvin Path actually play that barrack a couple of times in the split, so I'm still curious to see how that actually pans out. Man, that black and white Ziggs bird on Cassie's image almost looked like a penguin to me. I was like, Cassie and her penguin.
Are you kidding?
I guess Ziggs now gets the, you can see that's not a beak. It looks like a bird facing to the right. You see what I'm saying?
Follow me in.
Just think maybe that's a penguin and look at it. Yeah, it's polar
Oh,
bear
okay,
Cassie.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
Ash
I'm
locked
with you.
in. Ash locked in as well. Virtus.pro now, one more spot, Nick. Who do you round this out with? The Talus is available. You need some flank pressure here, potentially.
That could be something. There is a lot of blast open right now. They do not want to go. Wow, they're hitting them with a really old school special.
Wow.
I guess Peridot on the Grok. This is something that goes way, way, way back before a lot of you kids were involved in the scene. Grok has seen some changes, and I don't think those changes have been fully explored. I think to VP's credit, this is something that we just haven't seen fully explored since he was altered.
So you buying or selling this? Because I'm not sure I'm buying this Grok yet. And especially the way Virtus Pro played, I don't know if they have the flexibility to do this on a team, the quality, the caliber of Sanguine right now.
Man, I don't know. I really don't know.
Bit of a risk.
It goes way back. It is a bit of a risk, but they do have a game to give right now for Virtus Pro. Feeling like they're in a good spot. A lot of things that have changed that I mentioned about Grok. Just, you know, having the ability to naturally build up damage. Obviously, totem placements. Grok is a harder character than he used to be.
All right, Virtus Pro Sanguine heading into Game 2. It's do or die for the North American PGS team. Let's send in Agor and Fox and see what happens.
Well, here I was locked in on Penguin Ziggs, and instead we get Grok, something that we don't typically see on PC anymore, something that was a very big console pick for a long time. Has fallen off. How do you feel about it?
I'm ready to go zoom Gore. I can't do the Grok voice.
He
but
can fly!
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually one of the really interesting things. You're going to see a Grok chasing down Androxus in ult. It is Maelstrom Grok as well, so playing more aggro. The big thing for me between these two compositions is you've got this early game focus with the Inara, with the Ying, and actually that's a treacherous ground Inara there for Sanguine Esports. They've got an early game sustain, heal, point control, and space control. Virtus Pro, we got Leon. Bring out the smoke as well. We'll see how this goes though, as El Zulu does take immediate control of the objective. Perdo finds first blood. Sanguine Esports are getting cut off from behind. You know, you cut off what's going to keep Yanara safe, and then she just ends up falling anyway.
Like Nick had said, something we haven't seen in a long time, something that's a little bit older, I want to say, in terms of meta, but can still do a lot of damage. You would be surprised what Grok can output, and again, he can fly in his ult now. He has Ghost Walk to get out.
Sweetie, I remember closed beta day 1 Grok, which is where you had your healing rain on the first random pick card. Honey, believe me, I am not surprised by the amount of damage that Grok can do, but it is the utility in which that flight is going to give him that I'm interested to see coming out. But so far, it's all about the shock pulses, and bear that in mind because there are 3 deployables for Grok to bounce this off on the enemy team. Inara places down Waters Field. It's free bounces. 2 illusions go down. It's free real estate gore. This Grok is going to be ramping up so much damage, and all of a sudden, that is Virtus Pro with the first capture
and a team
of
of
this
5
game.
somehow manages to have 8 targets to hit that will give him damage, and it makes it so easy. You can see this just coming into effect several times throughout all this. Illusions are the name of the game, and that is part of the reason Ying is going to be either a big issue or a big boon to teams. We've seen her successful so far.
I want to remark on that. There's 8 targets that you can bounce a shock pulse off. There's only 1 shield that can block that, and it's a weenie little non-Fortress Baker Siege shield. It's just not doing much, and look at this. It's Perdo being relentless here, going, charge it up, let it loose, charge it up, let us loot. As we go, here comes the lightning. Perdo trying to find some damage, enabling some enemies. Gets the Androxus out of the air. Oh my god, my dreams are coming true, Gore.
And now the kills are rolling in once again. Virtus Pro do lose 2 in the process, but Zulu left pretty much by his lonesome. Damage is going to be good. Double kill for Perdo. Maybe a triple kill as Jalen jumps down, tries to do whatever he can, but it's not going to be enough. Illusion just makes it an easy target.
Oh, Perdo's on a high score right now. He's got a streak going on 10, but it is the high score damage numbers that I want to see in just a second, Gore, because look at that, 29,680. We'll see if they reach 99999 by the end of this game, and oh my god, call them a pinball wizard. Can we get that as a title in game at this point for Grok?
I mean, at this point, he has gotten to there, right? He's bouncing this left and right. No one is having anything to do with it. And it's in moments like that where you have 2 targets. If you can bounce between an illusion and an R, it just deals so much damage. Envy gets a little bit big. WoW finds credit for the kill, but Elvin Path, the rest of the team all pushing it forward. Ult's available for Virtus Pro if they need to, but they have a full minute left to finish this push off.
There's not very much left to go at all, is there? As well as Sanguine, look at that. They've got the Accursed Arm. They've also got the Ashe ultimate, that assert dominance ready, Gore. No Illusory Rift. That's the thing which is just striking me. That's only just come up and available, Gore. At 3 minutes and 45 seconds in, we're seeing that ultimate charged for this defense.
You hate to see it. You hate to feel it if you're saying when that is
probably... I feel like at this point that must have come around 2 rotations. There's no way that Ying has just been bodied this badly.
I mean, it is getting poked out. Every single time I've seen Jalen drop down, he is getting damaged left, right, center. Anything that can come out does come out. Perdo going to be able to find a kill right there. Envy was low, but he stayed alive in the process. As long as he can float around over here, I think he's going to have success.
What was really interesting there, Gore, is we actually saw the Tempest used by Grok to try and keep Fernando alive because an Immortal might have been able to turn the tide there, but Virtus Pro recognize the fact that, like, well, hey, you know, Fernando's going to come back anyway by the time it does go into overtime. All contesting is going to be the Dome Shield, so Virtus Pro are hitting the gas pedal. They're looking for this conversion here, trying to keep everybody up and alive. Ninu needs to find some anti-heal onto this Inara to make sure that they are killable, but could find some shots onto Androxus now instead as the Immortal comes through.
Now looking for Kresnik. He's going to try to dash through and stay alive, but it's just not going to last long. Evan Path credit for that. Envy does go down, but he gets rid of the healer. It's just a little bit too late.
Was that a presence for 2 kills right
there?
there?
For the credit kill, but he's not going to be able to find it.
Oh my god, we've got to see a replay of that at some point, Gore, but respawning out of the gate. Look at this. Perdo chasing down Androxus with the Tempest. Everybody said, oh, the flight doesn't matter so much, and look at them now, Mom. Look at them now.
So when this was first added into the game, and for anyone who hasn't played Grok in a long time, it might seem a little surprising to you. There were 2 things I wanted to see Grok do. One was fly up, find a kill, either on a Drogoz, a Willow, or on an Androxus, someone in the air. I'm going to count that one as that moment. The other one was in the actual point on Brightmarsh, just hover on the ceiling where no one can see you, but the bottom still heals the team, so you're like
fantastic.
Golden.
I would love to see that. We might actually see that come up, but probably next, not in the next point fight, Gore, as that ultimate was used twice in round 1 and is sitting now for Perdo at, well, 88% already. Okay, 7-0 and 10. Perdo is just cracking out the big totem energy right here, looking to turn that 17 streak into something even higher. Ghost Walk, though, in a bit of trouble here as out comes the Inara wall, but up into the air. Perdo stays alive. There's not enough anti-heal, but Bagelwow gets the shutdown play at last, and that big streak goes bye-bye.
Forces all the vision up onto him, though, and that allows a lot of pressure to come down. Kresnik is incredibly low. A couple more shots will kill him off, and he does go down before he can find any retaliation. Bagelwow, though, making sure that him and Zulu stay alive, stay pressured on the point. But Virtus Pro the entire time, I mean, they're already at 63%. They've just been dancing on the objective.
And Ninu's just playing Leon. It's death and taxes. You got no healing when that happens. Even El Zulu gets chipped on down. The Stigala becoming a gravel piece right there by the end of it. 11 streak for Ninu right now. 87%, 90, and 93 as Ash does assert dominance, and Sanguine do need to find a chance to turn this around, but Envy gets boxed out.
And immediately, Perdo, like, almost dead. Ghost Walk gets healed up, walks right back out of there, stays alive the entire time, and now the damage is there. 93%, a kill onto Kresnik, and Envy not looking too healthy to be able to have a huge impact on this point right now. They are holding on, doing whatever they can, but that's 3 members, 4 members, about to be 5 members that are all going to be going down for Sanguine.
Jalen trying to make the hero play right there, but realistically, all you're doing is just stalling things out. Ninu finds yet another double kill. 15 streak for them, but look at this barrack for Virtus Pro. 21 streak, Gore. I think they might be overtaking that high score number at this point from the Grok, at least in terms of streak. But as far as the damage dealt charts go, it is 79, 80,000 for this Grok, dealing so much damage to deployables, quickly followed by Cassie at 61k, so not quite the same disparity that we saw with the Shrapnel Victor in previous games, but then it is all Virtus Pro, again and again and again. The next 2 damage picks after that, they're all in blue.
And immediately the pressure's coming out as fast as they can. 3 kills already, looking to turn that into 5 low health bars on the side of Sanguine, not able to do too much. They have a Dome Shield, they're about to have a Dread Servant, they have the Enlightenment, they have an Immortal. Virtus Pro have everything in their toolbox to get this win.
Welcome back to Counting with Goremizer. I am your host, Vox. We will be joining this, resuming these ultimate tallies in just a second, but is there any way that Sanguine can respond, Gore? Because I'm looking at the Illusory Rift, but what do you do in the face of death and taxes?
I mean, at this point, you just cry a little bit. Envy goes down. He's probably crying inside base right now. Black and white screen as he watches his team fall left and right. Zulu goes down immediately. Kresnik's kind of the dying hope, but there's the Dread Serpent, there's the control, and that is exactly what Virtus Pro need to find themselves an Immortal. 19 streaks burning for every single member as they were looking to walk that one in.
But Gore, I'm going to say it, it's not just control, it's Control, Alt, Delete for the side of Virtus Pro as they take Sanguine completely off the table. A 4-0 sweep. Barely any pressure from the North American PGS team, and all of a sudden, Virtus Pro, they're looking like they're back to their former glory.
Well, I have to say, if you are any of the North American pros that were backing Sanguine, I need to reconsider, because Virtus Pro looks completely different than they did. Even online, they are stronger, they are better, and this is a better team than I think we got to see on the split, and that's saying something considering they just did nothing but improve.
And Gore, that was all draft for me. It wasn't just the execution, it was the fact that they just understood the fact that, like, oh, they're picking lots of deployables. Well, we know what deals well with that. Haha, Grok back into the mix. Also, do bear in mind 1.7 we have had for the last couple of patches a fix, but Grok's ultimate now travels at the intended speed, folks, not the speed of slugs, so we are a little bit faster there, and we can see Grok maybe zooming into the forefront of drafts if that continues.
Well, being able to pull something from an old meta to counter what has been taking over as of right now. Virtus Pro take game number 2 and take the set because of it. So let's go ahead and go back to the desk and see what they think about how quick that Brightmarsh game was.
I'm actually not surprised here. I think it would be silly to vote against Virtus.pro, especially since it's been so long since they've been in the LAN conversation. They're finally back. I mean, Elvin Path and these guys weren't going to waste that opportunity. And you could see that Ninu and Surette showed up nicely. Death in Taxes Leon with about a 20 streak means she never dies. That's not plan for success.
A lot of effectiveness there on Leon for sure. One thing I always like seeing is that Elvin Path always has something that he's saying to his team. At win or lose, there's an adjustment to be made, or this is working well for us. And this Grok, I think it just blindsided me. I think it's safe to say it blindsided everyone involved in this set.
I knew it was coming.
You know, Ying and Barrick, that used to be, you have your deployables to bounce off of. It's just not something Sanguine was prepared from. They have never had to play against a Grok meta. These are old school players from Virtus.pro up against new school guys from Sanguine.
Yeah, that really did show a little bit in this moment here. I think one of the biggest concepts, though, was the fact that a new guy like Ninu could jump in and be your MVP here for this last set, and I think Virtus.pro are very, very happy to have him. And I'm very happy to see him performing well. That's one of those things that you never know how that dice is going to roll, especially since he hasn't been at LAN. Are you overall surprised, happy that the Steel Series MVP went to Ninu? Is this something you consider probable?
I mean, I think the Leon was extremely effective. Game number 2 was about Peridot, but you have to think about the set as a whole. I thought he gave him that magical pick. Luck or not, he was the guy that gave them that pick on Stone Keep that got the ball rolling, and he is the rook. I mean, playing cool under pressure, this is such a good win for them to just get under the belt, especially for those new guys that get to go forward in this tournament. They still have the ability to lose a set and just continue on plugging away. Great win here for VP.
I mean, we talked a little bit about, hesitation, and I think we saw a little bit with Throner and SK Gaming, and he kind of hesitated when he went aggressive on the Ashe. First game, first LAN. We didn't really see a lot of that from Ninu, so I am impressed by him. He definitely deserves that MVP. Virtus.pro will be moving on, but their opponents have not been decided yet. We still have another set coming up as well, and this one, I believe, going to be versus Splice and Ryder. That's going to be such an interesting game because we have a North American team who has lost all the time. And then we have a team from Southeast Asia who has lost all the time. But with a new roster, not a lot of recognizable names, maybe I Am Ray, one of the only ones. Just a preview to that, how do you think that's going to go?
I think these are always so fun to watch because you've never seen them before, and you might never see this matchup again.
That's right, probably
Splice,
not.
I got to give them credit as the PPL team, as they have started to gain traction. They have a lot of confidence. They're very vocal. They're having a lot of fun here, and I think that's going to lead into a good victory for them.
They seem very excited. I see a lot of these guys, very excited to have their first LAN. This entire roster of Splice is looking hopefully new and improved as far as their energetics being here, but also just their play. They want to come through to this LAN surprising everyone around. But you know what? It wasn't a surprise. The veterans, Elvin Path and Virtus.pro, take the win here over Sanguine. Let's send it to an interview and see what they have to say about it.
Well, congratulations, guys, on your win. I actually kind of want to know, just going into this, was Sanguine a threat on your radar, or did you not even consider them as big of a threat? Because you guys came in on fire.
Well, you see, as I think the European region has always been stronger than North American region, and it's been like that for 2.5 years, for 3 years. And because of that, of course, it's a best of 3 and everything, but we weren't thinking much. We just had to come and play because they're just dark horses to us. Nothing you can do about it.
And so moving into this, a big question on everybody's minds as well has been how the 2 newest members of Virtus.pro, is obviously your now 3 members of old D69 back together again, are going to integrate with the team and work together at LAN. And with Ninu pulling out an incredible performance with Leon on that last game as well, I've got to say, do you guys feel like you're running on all cylinders now and you're ready for the rest of the bracket?
Yeah, we definitely are ready for the rest of the bracket. And there is a big thing I'd like to note about this game in particular. You see, since it's a best of 3, right? It's very short time span, and in a best of 3, especially if you're facing completely different region, the first game will always be a calibrating game. We did not expect them to pick Victor Willow. Victor Willow is something that Europe plays. North America doesn't play that. I asked them, they said no, they don't play it in America. So we were prepared for them to not take Victor Willow, but they did. And we had the lower hand in the draft on the first map. We still pulled through, but props to them for knowing what Europe does. Props to them for knowing how to play the game.
Well, with the way things went, this actually is more for game number 2 on Brightmarsh. We've seen Ying having a lot of effect so far, and Nara being very prominent. That Grok pick was pretty much perfect to counter that. Was that something you guys have been practicing, or was that just some old knowledge that you knew from playing for a long time?
Well, of course. Much like this Vilo Victor thing. Grok is a good guy when he's picked right. And this was the best scenario to pick Grok, nothing else.
Last question, Ninu. How does it feel to get your first win on LAN, man?
Feels really nice.
Awesome, man. Congratulations, guys, and good luck in your next matches.
Thank you very much.